Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Star Wars Galaxy of Yeti coming to you with another Stratchat. We've got our boy INQZ coming out of FC Alpha. He's one of their territory war masters over there. So he's the one doing the strategy behind the attacks and defense, that kind of thing, and what to use where, and all the fun stuff that happens up in these territory war focused guilds up up in the stratosphere here. So thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always good. It's always good having a good chat with you. I mean, I do. INQZ and I. The name of the guy he's there is INQZ, but INQZ and I, we do usually a stream. He'll come in and chat with me on an off week where we'll go through stuff like modding and squads, where we're going with our roster and territory and galactic. Fucking hell, why am I all over the place? Grand Arena Championships, Jesus. All right, let's try to get focus. Anyway,
Yeti didn't have his coffee today.
I haven't had coffee in. I actually had one cup of coffee in the last 7 weeks. It's like I got off caffeine finally. I was getting migraines, so I had to kind of do something. And the migraines have been going on for a long time, and it was daily. And it was it's a weird one because the way it used to not function, because when gyms were open, I'd have coffee, go to the gym, work out, come home, eat breakfast, have more coffee, and be fine. But with no gym available because of everything that's going on in the world, since they've been shut for almost a year here, I'd wake up and I just drink a shit ton of coffee and not do anything. And every afternoon I kept getting a migraine after about the first 2 or 3 months of that. And it was a strange one. So the only day that I didn't was a day when I was, like, I woke up hungover but without a headache, right? And I felt sick to my stomach, so I didn't make any coffee. And then that day, I didn't have a migraine, and I was just like, Eureka! Like,
Wow.
I feel like shit, but I don't have a migraine, so we're gonna start trying to do this one again. And so then I eventually kind of like broke down and just go, all right, I guess I'm going cold turkey on caffeine. And weirdly enough, I also had a terrible hangover on the second day of no caffeine, and the withdrawals from the caffeine and the withdrawals from the booze did not go well. Holy crap, was I a lump of shit that day. Let's be honest, that was bad.
Oh man, that sounds like an unfortunate time.
Yeah, it was unfortunate timing, that's for sure. Anyway, let's bring it back to the Star Wars realm here. But yeah,
let's dive in.
Yeah,
we have some new stuff today.
So there was that title update today, and it's weird because they added something that's super cool to the game, but you can't get it if you're in a guild. The guild search function has like that new update, and you pointed out to me earlier that they had a Territory Wars like win-loss record on the thing, which is super cool, and it shows you like the most stars they've ever got in territory battles on the TVs that they do. And I mean, that's so awesome. I would love to have that resource available to me to look at my guild, while I'm in the guild. I don't have to leave the guild to see it. But we've just been clicking through it before we started recording, and we couldn't find a way to get that information while you're in a guild. And we've got territory battle going, so we can't just drop the guild and like go look. So that's weird. It's something that's super cool, and I think a lot of people would be really happy to have. But they need to be able to access it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this may end up being the first step in a series of steps to refresh the UI system. You can clearly see, I know we don't have it pulled up here, but they have the title update on Reddit as a post. And so they have a couple screenshots up there, and you can see the UI has been just refreshed. And it looks a lot better than the existing UI compared to when you're in a game or in a guild. Sorry. So this may end up being the first in a series of UI refreshes. I think this has been much needed for the guild search for a very long time. Totally. The guild search, let's be frank, it was just inadequate. It didn't have enough information. And if you're a brand new player coming into this game looking to find a guild, it's very hard to parse between the guilds and figure out which is a good guild and how are they doing.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I remember my experience with the guild search when I first started playing this game, and I feel like that dodgeball quote is the best. It's like as useful as a cock flavored lollipop. It just it's one of those where you just there's not much to do. You just go, okay, this guild has this much GP. It's open. I can join it. It has a space. Do I want to join it? All right. Like it's weird. It's weird. And the best way to find guild has always been, for me, has always been going to Reddit or going to the official forums or like messaging someone from my shard or something like that, or getting invited from someone in your shard or something, or maybe a GAC opponent. I've definitely recruited people that I fought in GAC and stuff. So I mean, it's just funny that, like, for me, the guild search function is so overlooked, just in general by everybody, that it's weird. It's interesting that they started there, you know. Like, I would have loved to have seen just an update to like the actual cantina room that is the background for all of our different screens, like the home screen and the fleet screen. That would have been a nice change, I think, because I mean, it looks all right and everything, but it's been the same cantina screen for how long? Since before I started playing, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they've added tables to the Cantina screen, but I mean,
Yeah.
realistically, it's been the same base format, and I think that one might be, probably a bigger project than we're considering.
I would imagine so. Yeah, that would be a pretty
Uh,
big one.
but with the guild search, like, think about the impact it has on new players. Like, a lot of new players don't know that the majority of active players are on Discord,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
there's no way to get that information unless you're really plugged in to Reddit or somewhere else as a new player. So this is really key. Now you can go, and instead of just looking at the GP of guild, you can go and say, oh well, this one's open to join and it's 300 million, but look at their territory wars. They've gone,
Over
one
the
for six in
century.
their
Yeah.
last seven. So maybe I don't want to go there. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think that's a good point to bring up. I think what CG's doing right now with, I think, heavy direction from Disney is to make the game more accessible for newer players, because you, just the same thing that the players have been talking about for 2 years, or 3 years or whatever. Ever since I joined, they were always talking about, you can only get the people at the very top to spend so much, because there's only so much you can bring to the game. But a new player, if you get them spending, then sky's the limits, because a new player that starts spending and spends a lot, they're looking at 20, 30, $40,000 if they're doing it fast. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
there's a lot of profit potential there, and I think Disney is going to make that kind of a. I think when Disney got in involved with like the Mandalorian and stuff, I think they realized that what lightning in a bottle they had there with that show, and so they could definitely turn this $1 billion game into a $2 billion game if they made it easier for newer players to get involved and to get more teams and to get things built faster. So it'll incentivize early spending. Um, it's like
I think I think that's going to be essential to like the future of the game, right?
yeah,
Because I know that the player base has been shrinking, and that's inevitable. It's a 5-year-old game at this point.
yeah,
A lot of the longest tenured players, they either have everything or they're slowly starting to retire, and it's going to be really essential for them to continue to bring in new players. And then you also look at the amount of content Star Wars is turning out right now. We're literally like, they have like what, 9 shows on the horizon.
I was gonna
How
say
much
this is
content
like
are we gonna have?
the dawn of the renaissance of Star Wars, because this is about to be the biggest explosion of meat like content that you can imagine. Like, you think like Marvel has a lot of shows and stuff. Just wait. Star Wars has so much more potential to just be all over the place, because like an everyday person can turn into a Jedi, and it doesn't need to be anything canon or backstory, and you can turn that into 6 films. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and
just out of
everything's
nowhere.
like a TV show now,
Yeah.
TV series.
Well, I
Um,
think I think uh, I think a lot of media is moving towards that. I think it's really funny, because back in the day, when you talk to actors and stuff, TV shows were kind of like the little kids, like the sand pit, the kids table at a wedding, that kind of thing, and
Yeah, exactly.
features were the big gem that everybody wanted. But I'm thinking now, just the way that we're consuming media now, people with stuff like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, all that stuff. There's a lot more potential for revenue off of a TV show than there is off of a film.
Yeah, and a lot of the stigma about sitting at the kids' table, so to speak. Now they have big budgets, they have big actors, and they actually have strong writing. And if you look at TV series, I mean, I think they're going to coexist with movies,
Yeah,
just simply for the fact that some stories are going to be suited for a TV series in that format, right? Like the
absolutely. Yeah.
serialized week to week episodes is almost like reading a comic panel, right?
Oh, for sure, for
Um,
sure. Um,
so I think we're going to get a lot there, and we already have something coming up. Bad Batch, May the 4th. We're already starting to see that content. That's going to be a whole batch of stuff that we can't even anticipate. We know we're going to get the Bad Batch themselves, the clones.
we're gonna get the 4 clones to start. We don't know if there's gonna be another clone in the show that might be released later. We don't know if they're gonna give us a legendary, like, techno Echo, right? With what he did in the Clone Wars. We don't know what we're gonna get for that fifth. And I'm willing to bet it's going to be a new character rather than something from Clone Wars. But here's the thing I've been pretty positive this is what they're doing. When you look at the accessibility of Beskar Mando, you look at the accessibility of Moff Gideon, and now you can go, you can kind of, I'd be willing to hazard that Dark Trooper is going to end up in like a fleet store. Not fleet store, the fleet currency for farming in the fleet energy, not fleet currency. Why am I all over the place tonight? Anyway, yeah. So for fleet energy in the fleet farm, Dark Trooper, I'm thinking that's probably a good idea. I bet you at least one of those Bad Batch will be in the fleets. I believe. Bet you there's going to be one hard node for Bad Batch, and I bet you one's going in the cantina, and then like the fourth one can go up in the air wherever they land it. I have this feeling that Beskar Mando, Bad Batch, and the Imperial Remnant team that will be available are all going to be super accessible for new players, because they've already looking to be quite powerful. Like the Bando team, it's very good. It's not like an elite team, but it's a very good team that's going to do a lot of stuff. You can use it, in a lot of the areas of the game to some effect. You've got the Imperial Remnant and Moff Gideon Trooper team. When that gets rounded out, that last Imperial Remnant, I think that's going to be a pretty strong team. But Bad Batch is looking like an absolute light side Geo monster. Like they're looking like a 444 team, and I've only seen 2 of the characters. That's sort of like what I'm looking at in the kit. I'm just going, oh, geez, oh, ooh.
Yeah, I think both the Beskar Mando team as well as the new Bad Batch clones, there's a lot of stuff to like in their kits. Now, I can't go so far as to say that they're like wildly useful yet.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that needs to get added, especially to the Beskar Mando team. Right now, it's good for taking out a GG team or something in that tier.
Yeah. So
it's all going to be worth it if it ends up, being used towards
leading
GL requirements.
Yeah. But that's the thing. So Galactic Legend for Mando and Mando's universe isn't going to be on the cards for probably at least the next set. Definitely won't be, because the way that they've set up Galactic Legends is always the final iteration of the character or the character's culmination of whatever, right? So you can argue if they did make a Galactic Republic one that you could use, Galactic Legend. You could go with like Kenobi because that was the height of his power. When he was Master Kenobi. So I could see that argument being made that this was his most powerful form or whatever. This was his final form. So yeah, I could see that. When they went with four Galactic Legends from the new films, I think they've kind of locked themselves into this has to be the character's like best version of themselves. Or last version of themselves, even because if you look at Master Luke, I think that was a terrible Galactic Legend idea. I think he should have been the hero's journey, and I think that Ninja Pajama Luke should have been the Galactic Legend. But hey, Like,
Yeah, I was you know, it sucks that they went that direction because they CG always mentioned that they wanted Jedi Knight Luke to be the final iteration, and then
yeah.
the new movies kind of came in and changed their plans. But
Yeah, so I mean, I've thrown it out there before just as an idea, but I kind of have a feeling that there's going to be a tier higher than Galactic Legends that'll come out in probably, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, when they're starting to run out of like the older stuff that older people that play this game are really into. I feel like they're going to drop something big. So there is a chance that you might get a second version of, the Ninja Pajama Luke, as and like a last version or a new version of Vader that's just absolutely OP as fuck, because those two are like the absolute paragons of light side dark side at that in that final Return of the Jedi, right? Like,
yeah,
nothing gets more like epic than Vader versus Luke on the second Death Star. That was just like, I remember as a kid just watching that fight. Like, every time it came on when I was watching that film, it was just it was like it was hype. Like, you knew exactly where they were going to move and how they were going to move. Every time you saw, like, Luke getting the high ground, and Obi-Wan has taught you well. It's just it's
all the quips and everything. It's
yeah,
all
yeah,
iconic,
yeah.
of course, yeah.
And it's one of those ones, like, as you get older, like the whole taking the high ground and then Obi-Wan has taught you well. Like, that didn't even dawn on me. Like, it's one of those, like, when it was made before Revenge of the Sith, right? But after watching Revenge of the Sith and then watching Return of the Jedi again, all of a sudden you're like, he just said you have the high, like, oh, he took the high ground. He's like, Obi-Wan taught you well. That's amazing. Like,
That's the one thing you have to give to George Lucas's reign over Star Wars is he always had an eye towards connectivity and tying everything in. So,
yeah,
I really applaud all that. Looking at the GLs, I think it's interesting that you brought up, like, what path we might see for GLs going forward.
yeah.
I actually don't know what we're going to see because we're already off the cadence pattern for
Yeah.
GLs. Like, we should have had an announcement by now.
We should have the full announcement by now, because it's been, I think, 7 or 8 months since the last pair got released.
Yeah, so I think they came out in like early October, so we're right at like 7 months.
Yeah.
But looking at what we have on the horizon, the Mando content is incomplete. It's very clear at this point
That they
that
can't Galactic
there's
Legend
not
it.
enough there to make a light side and dark side requirement for Mandalorians until we get like a third season plus Book of Boba Fett, right?
Yeah.
So that seems like a way off, and then Bad Batch is incomplete. That doesn't seem like it's going to be worthy of GLs, but you never know. They could use a lot of repeat requirements. But right now, it's looking like there's nothing there. So I don't know what they're going to do.
So it's a weird one. Like, there was an argument made, like, oh, Bad Batch, because they're Galactic Republic, maybe they could be part of the GLs for that. And I'm going, but that's 4 marquees. So unless they're jumping the gun to having 4 marquees in the next sets of GLs, I don't see how this goes along. And even then, by May the 4th, I don't think we're getting an announcement. I think we're going to get more of the Disney content essentially getting buffered in this game. And I don't know what that means. I definitely, like, gotta stress, they have to increase the size of the GAC board and probably the territory war board. I think that's mandatory at this point. There's too many teams now, and it's just, I just can't see any reason for them to release more Galactic Legends until those two things happen. And I think that's something that they've probably opined to themselves behind closed doors. They've never said it out loud anyway. But with Disney pushing this new content, I don't see Galactic Legends coming to the game anytime soon.
Yeah, I really don't either. I did want to let you know, though, that when they released the kit for the tech, the Bad Batch tech guy, they did mention that we are getting something on May the 4th, a character. I think that'll be the third marquee.
Yeah. So there is a timeline. So we get another one on the 28th and another one on the 4th, I believe. But what I mean is there's not going to be an announcement of like the opening rounds of a Galactic Legend pair or something like that. I don't expect that. I know some people.
I would be stunned at this point.
I'd be pretty surprised. And with that in mind, a quick deviation, just so you're like me, you have 3 Galactic Legends, I have 3 Galactic Legends. Are you going to take this opportunity to go and get your 4th now? I think you're missing Ray, right?
No, so I actually did get all of my Galactic Legends. My last one was Sith Eternal
Oh,
Emperor.
Sith Eternal was your last. I thought you only had 3. I thought you were missing one other than Sith Eternal. My bad.
Oh no, so Sith Eternal was my 4th, and I actually just got him to Ultimate like 3 days ago.
Nice,
So,
nice. He's good.
so
Good
yeah,
for
I
this
think the
round.
last time we talked about it, I hadn't quite gotten to him yet, so I was still
Yeah,
at.
like I
Yeah.
snuck in front of you on C, I think, because we were both pretty close at the same time. But I snuck in front and had the alt save for from JML, so I just dropped that on him and was like, "Here we go."
Yeah, I wish I had the alt for him, but I don't regret putting the alt on JML just because
Really?
the way that I use Jedi Master Luke, like we have splits that I like to do. There's enough Jedi where you can do like a JML lead and a JKR lead. Usually you have your JKR Buster, and then you
Yeah.
can take the leftovers, especially with Cam now,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
create the JML team. You basically just spam the ultimate or the lead ability from JML. There's a special lead ability that you can use when he's the leader, and every time you use it, it charges his ult by 8%. So you just spam that at the beginning and just pop ult as quickly as possible, and then your Jedi hit like trucks.
Well, it's a funny one. So that there's a split like that we use as well, and it's even without the alt, it's pretty. Like I don't have the alt, and I mean I'll drop the odd like JML versus Slacker with Trash Jedi, just because I can't get something to work or something and get a little bit of RNG on like say buff block or something dropping or something like that, and I can't get at faucet too quickly or whatever. But for the most part, it's pretty fucking flawless without the ult. And a lot of times, because that's one of those battles that I'm getting more and more comfortable coaching in my guild, and a lot of times I don't even recommend they use the ult when we're doing it, because it's like boom, boom, like ult's ready, but I'm like do this, okay, he's dead. All right, there you go. Like,
Yeah, you realistically don't need it a lot versus SLKR fights. There are other fights
yeah,
that may not be liberty to mention what we use it against,
yeah,
but
yeah.
there are times where the ult becomes absolutely essential to winning the fight clean or not timing out.
Yeah, yeah. There's like one or two I can think of where you're probably talking about, and obviously I'm not going to press you on them, but I do think I have an idea what you're talking about with that, and
Yep.
yeah, I could see that being an issue, but it's one of those I just don't have any immediate plans to place the alt, because as I'm using him, not having it's fine. Like it's one of those like especially in like GAC, I'm so like he's so flawless against Slacker and Ray that right there solves a lot of problems. And then JML and JML is always fairly ugly unless you're running JKR lead versus their non JKR lead, and then like or when you think about it, he's just fucking useless against C. So it's
Yeah, pretty much.
it's one of those. His uses are niche, but what he does so well. Just like C. C's use is pretty damn niche, but man, is he good at what he does. Like
If you know how to maximize what he does, and you're good at scouting your opponent, like we'll use GAC for an example.
yeah,
If you know your opponent doesn't have Slacker or Imperial Troopers, then throw that sucker on defense, and they're going to be stuck.
oh
Like
yeah,
when he's good, he's very good. But
yeah,
when you have the counter, he's
yeah. He's wasted on defense if they probably have the counter. You know.
yeah. I now I wouldn't say wasted. I mean, you're still drawing an A team, so there's still a lot of value in that.
Well, that depends on placement and stuff like that. Like if you're trying to
Sure.
specifically draw out, say like his Slacker or something, then go ahead and throw down C. Because I mean, in a 5v5, you can't do the Slacker solo on C really. If there's enough damage in the C team to actually worry Slacker, which oftentimes there's not. But like if they set a premium team that they have to attack, then something like that could do some work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a funny one. Like I really got turned on to getting C for 3v3. When I started watching him in 3v3, he's only beatable by Galactic Legends. and he's only beatable by 3 of the 4 Galactic Legends. Like, you can see solo NEC in 3v3, you can Ray solo NEC in 3v3, and you can Slacker solo NEC in 3v3. But if you don't have one of those available, you're not killing that character.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. I know there's a few, but
that Vader comp, I've seen it work once, and I've watched it attempted many times, and it's such a bad day when Deceived gets on Vader. Like, it's literally fight over. Like, you might be able to kill the stuff around him, but the fight is over. You cannot kill him. Like, you do not have the ability. I don't care how many dots you get out there, you're screwed because you're smoked before you can do it. Like,
so when I look at C, I mean, I'm looking at not just like, what can he do on defense, but also, you look at the other 3 GLs, they can beat a ton of stuff on offense, and you have to think about it a little more when you use C, because there's certain situations you don't want to use them. And so you have to kind of find a spot for them every GAC.
That's actually something I look for now in the scouting. I start looking, I go, where am I going to use my C here? And it's an interesting one. Like, there's times when I know somebody has Slacker, but they're not going to attack with him or whatever. And like, one of my opponents in the last round, he has Ray and JML, and I'm just sitting there going like, well, this is easy as hell. I can kill either of those with my other 2 Galactic Legends, and I can just set C in the back, and he just can't do anything about it because he's not going to take Ray on offense. Like, he sets Ray every single freaking time. So I'm like, all right, well, here you go. So I just it's like I set that. I saw his Ray, and I go, you lose. I didn't have to. I didn't even have to open up the back or anything. I knew game was over. I was like, you've just lost because that was the only way you could kill my C. And so I put C up front, and yeah, he just bounced off it like 5 times. That was it.
Yeah, no, it's fun to create those advantages. By the way, did you get a chance to check your current bracket?
Yes, I did.
How does it look?
It's brutal.
Mine too.
My current bracket, I'm going to go ahead and just say that this is the hardest bracket I've ever been in. Like, I don't think there's a single bad player in here. They're all like, I didn't do like a deep look or anything, but they all were like high scores, great accounts. There's a bunch of 3GLs, which is interesting. I've only matched up a couple of times 3GLs, and it was always before I had my 3rd. So it was like one of those where I was punching up. So there's a couple of 3GLs. I've got one of your little brother guild's players is my first opponent. He's got like 720,000 lifetime or something like that. I mean, he looks
from Bravo.
Yeah, from Bravo. So that's going to be a fucking absolute drawn out fight there. And then the rest of the bracket just doesn't look any prettier than that. So it's like it's going to be a real struggle. If I get 12-0 again, then I did my fucking work this week. There's not an easy fight in the bracket.
Yeah, mine's quite brutal as well. So I ran a hotbot compare, and it compares all 8 accounts in the bracket.
Yeah.
And this is probably the least amount of green. And green indicates when you have an advantage in any particular stat or category.
Yeah.
This is probably the fewest amount of green I've ever seen. I probably have 4 or 5 on my entire board.
Ooh, baby.
All of these accounts, except for 2, have 4 GLs.
Yeah.
They're every single account in the bracket's a bigger account than mine by at least 300,000.
Yeah.
They're all from 315 plus guilds, 315 million.
Yeah.
And the mods are quite respectable lifetime GAC scores. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. That doesn't sound like a friendly bracket there. And have you dropped anything during the season? I can't remember if you were 8-1 or 9-0.
I'm 8-1. My loss was purely bad RNG. It was the first fight of this very last bracket that we just concluded.
Yeah.
He kind of cheesed his defense a little bit, and I had budgeted properly, but I was fighting his Mon Mothma team, and I played it properly with Imperial Troopers. His bigs got about 10 dodges in a row.
Oh, yeah.
And they basically outlasted long enough to revive Wedge a second time, and then he came in with his nuke ability and just zerged down my character, and that was kind of
That's all she
It.
wrote. Once the train stops with those troopers, it
Yep.
really stops.
Yeah. So that was my loss. It literally came down to that fight, and I lost that fight, and he full cleared.
Man, that's fucking ugly.
Yeah.
That's one of those ones where you're just like, you freaking serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, come on. And I even used like not to trigger Biggs's 100% turn meter when I was using AoEs. Like I avoided AoEs until he was the only one.
Yeah.
And then I tried to get days on him twice with Piet, and it just
Just wouldn't
wasn't
stick.
landing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a frustrating fight.
I was just thinking it would have been even more frustrating if it was one of those ones where you were landing the days, but then Mon Mothma goes and clears the days like immediately, and you're just like,
Oh, I
"Fuck!"
know.
Like that'd be one of those ones where I'd be like, if I was playing on a phone, you're going out the window.
In fact, I think I probably did land at one time. She probably cleansed.
Like right
My
away.
memory's a little
Yeah.
fuzzy, but
Yeah, you're like, I couldn't see through the rage.
yeah, I was starting to see red, so
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
sure quite what was happening on screen anymore. But
Yeah, that's the thing. I have no idea what troopers can do in 3v3, so my only loss of the season, and not of a actual thing, my only dropped battle of the season was a Rolo Chupio team. And I didn't know what, like, it wasn't so much that I didn't know what to use there. I was just looking at the team. I'm like, my troopers will run over that. And then I just threw them in there, and they just got smoked. And I was like, are you freaking serious? Rolo?
oh no,
I was like, and then yeah, it was everybody's like, well, she has that anti-empire thing, and I'm like, but still, shouldn't they have like nuked the team? Like, I'm not wrong here. That should have worked. I was like, in 5v5, that would have worked, and they're like, yeah, 5v5 it would have worked, but it didn't work here. I'm like, damn it, like fuck. I was so pissed.
it's funny that you mentioned in 5v5 that it would have worked. There's so many teams that are broken in threes, and so many teams that just become stupidly elite because you can't formulate a full team to counter them.
Sith Eternal, we were just talking about him.
I know. I actually noticed more people than ever this time, and this might just be placebo, but I have two alts in addition to my main account.
Well, that's
I
a lot
play
of time.
GAC on all three of them.
Yeah.
And I've never encountered so many like auto deploys.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I find is almost universal now in whenever 3v3 rolls around. In my Discord, in my guild Discord, in the various alliance chats I can post in and stuff, I see a ton of people talking about how they're always getting auto deployed. Like one guy, I think in one of my old alliances in their GAC thread, was saying how he'd like faced 3 or 4 auto deploys in a row. So in like the championship round, it was another auto deploy, meaning that everybody else auto deployed, and that guy won on GP alone. Like that's fucked.
I think it's representative of like the declining popularity, especially. I can't speak to all GPs because I know smaller players, especially in my smallest alt guild.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that do enjoy threes, but once you get to Division 1, it is such a shit show.
Yeah.
And so many teams are just stupidly broken. I see like probably, I don't know, if I had to unofficially guess, maybe a quarter to a third of players just don't care when threes rolls around, and the entire mode is suffering.
Yeah, so I fully agree with that. I think it gets worse now that they're throwing it down, like ramming it down our throats every other month. So the first time when they first started doing it, and they dropped it after a couple of months or whatever, I didn't really hear much about auto deploys, and there wasn't too like. I think I've only faced one auto deploy in all 3v3 since this has happened. But when it came back that second month. One thing I noticed is a lot of people that I talk to in the game just flat out like, I can't be bothered. I'm not even going to do it. They're like, this is a good month for Trapped in Carbonite, and they just went for that. And then it was like that. This is like the third time that's come around or whatever for the month after month after month. And man, this one's ugly. Like everybody's just reporting about all these auto deploys when I'm talking GAC with people like in Discord, and I think that's something that CG will see because. I mean, you don't see a ton of inactivity in 5v5. The people that sign up for 5v5 tend to play it. They tend to set defense and they tend to play it. Whereas 3v3, I don't think it's going to... I think if they do 5v5 and then go back to 3v3 again, I think that next 3v3 is going to be a complete joke. I think so many people are just going to be completely fed up with it.
I know a lot of people just straight up don't like it. I don't like it. I play it because I'm hardcore PvP, but I get a lot of opponents that either auto deploy or they're like, you know what? I don't care about this mode. I'm gonna set every difficult team I have on
Yeah,
defense and call it a
yeah,
day. I'm not gonna attack. It's
yeah,
like cool. You're gonna collect your points at the end of the day and get your seventh rank reward box, but you're screwing me on points, and now I have no hope of reaching anywhere in the leaderboard. So it kind of takes that element of joy out of my gameplay as well. Like
yeah,
there's
yeah.
not a lot to play for.
That's one of the things I find like really, really annoying is that your enjoyment in GAC is absolutely predicated by how your opponent sets their defense or if they set a defense at all. Because auto deploys, like it's an easy dub, but who likes fighting auto deploys? I know as a streamer, it's like that's a rough stream, like because you're trying to make it as fun as possible, and it's an auto deploy, and everybody knows it's just an auto deploy, so it doesn't matter. And at the same time you're like, all right, well, like this is pulling down one of my GACs for the week. I need to, I almost want to the people that auto deploy a lot. I almost want to start messaging them and being like, hey man, could you like set me a proper defense? Just gonna throw it out there. I see you auto deploy a fair amount.
Yeah, so I actually messaged someone exactly that, and he joined the private message and left without saying a word.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the problems that I find is like I don't like reaching out too much just because I don't often get a response. And that's a weird thing. So when I was first started doing GAC like well back when I was like just level 85 and started doing it there, I would send messages to almost all my opponents like, hey man, good luck. I'm gonna record these battles, put on my YouTube, blah 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 blah, and rarely heard anything back. Every now and then people would be like, oh that's cool, like enjoy that kind of thing, but that's about it.
Oh man, yeah, that's the community aspect is definitely declined for threes. I'm hoping CG does something about it. I'm a little worried that they're not going to, just because for appearance's sake, it seems like they're ignoring whatever data they have, and they just continue to turn it out every other GAC is a threes, and so I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, are you guys just gonna continue to ignore us and keep doing this just because a couple level 75 players enjoy threes?
Yeah,
I don't know.
basically what it comes down to is they need to do something to revitalize the area, because as much as CG have like these new little babies, like the galactic challenges and like the small ones and then the big galactic conquest thing. I mean, those are their new like brainchild game modes, and they're garbage. They're not fun. I mean, I know some people enjoy them. I don't. I think they're fucking terrible. I do them because I have to, and that's the sad part of it is like I do all of that stuff just so I can enjoy GAC, because GAC and Territory Wars is like the only thing in this game that I find really truly fun. There's a lot going on with it, and yeah, I mean they got to do something to just like revitalize it a little bit. Even some new boards would be nice. Like maybe don't make one of the zones the fleet zone. Maybe add a third column where it's just the fleets. Like why can't you just do that? Because I hate the fact that we've got so few strategy options. Because there's only one back zone, right? And
Right.
I mean, if they just updated the board so that instead of it being just like the four spots, right, on that holo table, maybe they have a column right down the middle that's one block, and it's for your fleets, so that so you've got two back zones that you can do some strategy and play some peekaboo games or whatever you want to do. That would be so much more enjoyable. And then as I keep saying, it's like they need to expand these boards, because you go and you look at like you've got a pretty filled out account. You're at what, like 7.2, something like that, 7.3.
So I'm actually at 6.8. I'm a
6.8,
very
just
very
under 7.
lean account.
Yeah. So you've got all like the major teams though. So whereas I thought you were missing Galactic Legend, I thought you had everything else on top of that. So you've got all the major teams. You've got teams to burn on offense. Like you don't like full clearing the board. It's like is almost always going to happen for you because of the depth of teams that you have on attacking. After setting a defense that's probably pretty respectable. So CG should once again look at that and go, we just keep releasing these new teams. And I mean, now that they're now like these top accounts, like you go to like an 8 mil account, they've got like 10 extra teams at the time they're done with their attack. Like, it's silly.
Yeah, so I mean, there's pros and cons. I know that some people in my alliance have talked about it before. With increasing the board, there's going to be some pros and cons there. The cons being that, if newer players or smaller accounts think that it's hard now to face up against someone who's got more GP, just wait till there's more territories and they can really throw their weight at you.
Yeah.
Right now, at a certain point, once you have 8 offense and 8 defense teams, you can pretty much match up with someone who's 700 to a million GP higher than you
And take them down.
Because if you know your counters, you have your mods dialed in, you can take them down.
Yeah.
But if you increase the board and you now have extra regions, they can really throw their account weight at you. So there's pros and cons there. But, there is precedent for CG changing the maps. I just feel like they've kind of started ignoring the game mode. Do you remember when first GAC first started coming out? They would change the board like almost every other time.
Yeah, and that was fantastic. I mean, some of those boards I didn't like the one where all your squads were on one side and your fleets were on the other side. I was like, come on, CG, like there's no hiding anything. So everybody can just go, I can just tic-tac-toe. There we go. Pop, pop, pop. There's nothing to do. And so I really didn't like that board, but I liked that it was a new board. I like that I got to do it a couple of times. I would like to try some other boards. I think they can come up with some things. Or if they just had the idea of maybe they just had some like revolving ones that came out. I mean, really, with as many teams as there are in 3v3, definitely 3v3 should have a different board than this. Where you've got 2 sets of 4 and then a set of 3 and then your fleets. Like, why can't we split those up a little bit? Like,
I agree.
Like,
and add some strategy elements here.
That's really all I'm asking. Is with the board shift is we get some more strategy options. If you give us more options of hiding teams, not in one zone, right? Like, if you get 2 back zones, that gives you a lot more strategy, and it puts a lot more pressure on your opponent, and it puts a lot more pressure on you.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Do you remember when this happened? Like, people would hop in and be like, man, I want to see, like, what board we get this time. Like, I wonder what we're going to have and how we're going to play it.
Yeah. And also just on the aspect of watching somebody else's GAC as, like, a streamer, everybody's more excited when there's a little bit more... everybody wants to see what's in the gift, basically. They want you to open up the box. What's in the box? What's in the box? Like they want you to open up those back zones and be like, oh my god, they set blah 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 blah. Like, that's excitement. That's something, and it adds something more to the game mode as a player and as a viewer. And I don't know. I think CG's almost forgotten what's been carrying this game for the last 2 years, and or last year and a half basically. Is this new Grand Arena that they've been doing. So, I mean, they gotta throw some resources into it. They really do.
And honestly, it wouldn't even take, like, in theory. Now, I'm not a software developer myself, but I do live with one. And
but I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night.
Yeah, I know a basic amount to at least speak on this at a basic level, that the development time for changing the map wouldn't be as significant, to detract from whatever their other goals might be, whether they're focusing on galactic conquest or whatever. I feel like it wouldn't be that hard to spend, a couple man hours every week to change the map up, or every GAC season.
Well, I was just what I was thinking, and I don't know if this is feasible, but they could probably develop a bunch, just straight up, and then just start like plugging
rotation.
In. Yeah, starting a rotation. That would be good, especially if it wasn't, like a cyclical one where it was just kind of random, and sometimes you'll have the same map twice in a row, that kind of thing. I think that would be really cool. That would something that would add something to it. And here's the crazy one. I'd love to see something like that in Territory Wars as well. Like the fleets don't always need to be in the same place.
Right.
I would love to see that moved around. Just even fleet placement, just because that can really change up the way people attack. Like a lot of people try to uncover the back first. Some try to uncover fleets first, so they can get working on the fleets right away. I think there's a lot of things. So if you're say doing an attack like in Territory Wars, where you're going and trying to see what are in the back zones, so you can determine what you want to use on the top against whatever's in front of fleets. But you dig down into the back, and all of a sudden the fleets are back there. Oops.
Yep.
That would be very
I
cool.
think that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be very, very fun. That would add a lot of elements of surprise, especially if your board didn't match the board that you're attacking. So if it could be different for both. Like maybe on this board, my fleets are in the traditional spot. Maybe on your board, they're, two zones in the middle. Like the middle square and then one of the ones in the bottom middle. Like maybe they're there. I don't know, but we'll find them, like that kind of thing. I think that would be super cool, and I think that would add like an interesting element to the game, because sometimes people like guilds will kind of fizzle on fleets. Like it takes them a long time to clear them out, and especially difficult if you like say have your fleets there, you have a wall of negotiators, relegate negotiators, and then behind that you've got like a wall of rays, like that could cause some problems. Because you might just not have enough time to get everybody that has the counters there in time to clear it all out.
Can you imagine hitting that at 10 p.m. In a East Coast guild and hitting fleets, and so you got to wait for everyone to wake up, and now you have to Zerg down Ray at the end?
Yeah, like that would be pretty intense. And you know what? It would add an area where, because my guild's pretty good at territory wars. I mean, we just faced off, and you guys beat us by a little bit, but we would look up to you in terms of your performance in TW. So like we're usually crushing who we're against. Sometimes we'll hit a guild that's just in a better position than us, that are just as focused, and we have to really try to overcome some deficiencies. But sometimes we'll match up against a guild that's pretty focused, but they can't match up against us, and we just roll over them. And it's not because they're not good; it's just because their accounts aren't there yet. And so I think it adds a little bit of a like they got us because the board, we got stuck on something in a weird spot, and then we didn't have enough time to hit everything in the back, or we were running at it with counters that aren't right because we needed to do it for time. So I think that would be a really excellent addition to Territory Wars, and would really revitalize that. Make it less stale for a lot of people that probably don't put in the effort that say we would.
CG, I hope you're listening.
I know, right? I know.
Both for 3v3 GAC and just map refreshes, for all of the PvP content we have.
Because I think you can agree with me. The PvP content is the most compelling in this game.
Yeah, I mean, there are some PvE warriors, and every guild, I would say, probably a quarter to a third is PvP warriors, and that's fine, but I would say the majority of this game is probably PvP driven.
Yeah.
At least when you get to the 300 million plus guilds.
Well,
I would say
what I was going to say is the majority of the spending is PvP driven. So
yes.
So you look at guys at the very, very top, in those like the ultra elite PvP guilds, that are cracking it out on everything they can. They're spending a fuck ton of crystals getting those mods the way they are. Like when you see somebody, you look up and they've got like 150, 200 plus 20s. That's not because they were free to play since it started. That's because they've put a lot of money into those mods. They're not just ridiculously lucky and you're not. There's a lot of resources going into that, and I don't think that CG for me, I don't think are looking at it right, because a lot of the driving for spending and to have everything is not to win in GAC even. It's not to go and do better in Lightside Geo, even though everybody wants to do better in Lightside Geo because that fucking mode is just a ball acher. But it's basically so that they can get an advantage on other guilds, because you get the teams coming together, right? And they're all working towards a goal in Territory Wars, and it's like you want every bit of your roster and everybody in your guild's roster at a comparable spot, and so they drive the spending amongst themselves, getting all those mods up, getting everything properly modded, dialing in their counters, working on everything, making sure that it's going to be good to go at a clean win every territory wars.
Yeah, I guarantee if you run into a guild that that has some strategy that you're like, man, I need to get this counter up and running. We can't run into another guild and have that issue again. If you're one of those top guilds like Ka, you're gonna look at your crew and say, guys, this is an emergency remod, or this is an emergency counter prep. Get in there and test it and get it ready.
Yeah, exactly. Like find somebody, have somebody in your arena shard, set it out there, and get this dialed in because we need it for the next war.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't think that CG's really, I don't know, willing to view that. In what they're doing right now, I feel like they're working on more like some PvE content. When it comes to something like Conquest, I think they're asking too much of the player base in terms of the time spent on it. Like I faffed about and did like kind of the bare minimum. When my energy refreshed, I did it. I didn't buy any refreshes. I didn't fuck around with it too much. I got the tier 5 box, which is the one I was going for, and as soon as I got like the mid tier chest between tier 5 and tier 6, I just stopped. I stopped using the energy, but that was like 2 days before it was ended. So it's not like I can't get that tier 7 box without spending crystals. And I don't think anybody who got the tier 7 box didn't spend at least a couple of refreshes there. And that tells you about how much time is going into it. Because I was still spending a couple of fights every day, and that added up to everything else I was doing, the farming and the territory war and GAC and TB and all that stuff. And I mean, they're asking a lot of time now from people, and ask with you with 3 accounts. I don't know how the fuck you do it with Galactic.
I just straight
Conquest.
up didn't.
Yeah.
Like my alt accounts, I did not run Conquest on them. There was just not enough time in my day, and time is money, right?
Yeah.
Like for a working adult like me and you, we have day jobs, we have like other stuff to do in our lives.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I can't spend the time commitment to do it every day and like hit it when the energy refreshes. And then on top of it, you're also doing the arena climbs, you also have to do all your guild events. Like I think CG forgot that this is a mobile game when they had that period of time where they released the new challenge Rancor, where everyone had to be on at a certain time and coordinate. And then you have Conquest that was just a huge time investment.
Yeah.
It's almost like they forgot that this is a mobile game that prioritized playing on your own time.
Exactly. And not just playing on your own time, but being able to pick up pockets of it. I'll sit and fuck around with my mods for hours, but that's not normal. It's not indicative of normalcy in the player base. So
yeah,
like when I'm going, this is too much time invested. Like that's a problem. I can only imagine, because they're, as we were talking about earlier, they're trying to appeal to some new players. But I can only imagine that they didn't quite understand the level of time that it's going to take for everybody to do all this new content that they've put out, and because there's all that stupid grindy feat chasing, it's not fun. It's not a fun use of time. It's not like when you first start playing this game and you're going up the light side and dark side battles, and you're like trying to get through those 3 waves or whatever, so you can triple star it and move to the next. It's not like that. There's a lot of time that goes into that, but once you beat it, you beat it. You don't have to go back and just keep hitting the same one over and over again with no sim, trying to get some, arbitrary like number for some, like crits or something, and keep hitting it until you do it. I think CG have let that kind of escape them. Like you're right, they don't. They're treating it like we're a massive multiplayer online game, and we're not. And that's I think that's a mistake. I think it will be harder to keep the newer players that do start playing because of stuff like that. And it's, like those Galactic Conquests or whatever, they're like locked by GP, right? So you have to be like level 85 and 1 million or something to get into normal or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember what the requirement was, but
there was some requirement, yeah.
Yeah, I know you also have to do the normal mode before you get to the hard mode and whatever.
Yeah, like there's a process to it, and for normal mode you have to, to go to hard mode you have to have like 4 million GP or 4.5 million or something like that, and so it's one of those where it's like there's all these processes and stuff, but they don't really, I don't think they understand how tedious this is going to be. The third, fourth go around, fifth go around. Like I was already sick of it during the first one. I was like, oh my god, like the first.
I do think it had a lot of a grindy feel to it. Now, like I said, there's the pros and cons to everything.
Yeah.
There were many times where I'm like, hey, I'm at the bank and I have to wait for 10 minutes, so I go in and
Bang
do
out a
3 or
battle.
4.
Yeah.
Right. But if it's light side territory battle and you have conquest
And you got
and
your
you have
GAC.
your raids
Yeah.
and GAC, like really, do I want to go and sit there and grind out these feats? Like especially some of the more frustrating feats.
Yeah, like if it's not something that's readily available, like the ones that I find actually the worst aren't ones that maybe are difficult. They need like a specific team comp or something like that. The ones I find the worst are where it's like mark something 20 times.
Right.
It's like, well, Jedi Revan, I can probably get a few of those marks. Grievous, I might be like, depending on what team it is, I could probably get a few of those marks. Like it's one of those where you're just like, now I'm chipping away at it 2-3 at a time. Like, this is lame. Like, I don't want to do this.
All of those feats were like refresh bait.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
They want you to refresh energy and
spend crystals. Just spend crystals. And it's funny because, like I really push back against that T7 box because I just don't feel like it's worth all the grind. Like, if you do it well and efficiently, you can get T5 without a single refresh. If you do it well and efficiently, you can get T6 without one, even though I don't think there's a benefit for going from 5 to 6 because of the way they have the gears allocated. But man, getting tier 7 requires refreshes. It flat out does. I don't think there's a single person that got it without a single refresh. I mean, obviously anybody listening to this, if you got 7 without a single refresh, I'd love to see it in the comments. I'd love to see you do it again too, because I just don't think it's possible.
I know that some people in my guild, I can't remember, I can't say for certain, but I think that some people in my guild had for the very first run were able to do something close to that or get it without refreshes.
Yeah, so
but when they changed the feats, you remember how they made some feats where it's you can't actually do it unless you go back and do repeat battles. Yeah. Those feats are just, you have to buy the refresh.
Exactly. And they line up a bunch of them. That's the craziest part. Yes. Like, win 20 battles with full Sith teams. Well, there's only so many Sith teams. Like, and they've got to work against the weird shit that you've put out there. Like, I had a zone that had 9 Galactic Republic refresh teams. How many teams can I use against that? Not many.
Right.
And to beat it with a 3-star, it's like that. I don't have many teams that are going to do that. Depending on the team.
Yeah, so you have to clear the board and then go back to the one node on the entire map where you can do repeat. Usually Night Sisters.
yeah, and it's one of those you're like, I'll just go bang on that for a while, and that's lame. That's not what I want to do. Like,
I had to go sit there and delay the battle for 4 minutes, marking zombie over and over.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is fun. This is real fun.
This is great. This is how I want to spend my free time after getting off work.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm going to do that and just try not to hate life. And it's a weird one because, the initial idea is great. You take the feats out of Galactic Conquest, and it's great. It's a great mode.
I will say that the first time I played it, I was like, man, this is fun. Like, I had a good time.
I was so excited for it when I saw it. I saw somebody else streaming a couple of battles, and I'm like, man, this is going to be so great. And I, saved up my energy. And I streamed I streamed the first time I went into it. I streamed for like 2 hours. I did a bunch of refreshes. And I got to be honest, that last half hour, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I didn't play it for another day. I literally just left it. I was like, man, fuck this mode. Like, that's lame. And it was one of those because they just kept feeding up the same teams with the same stuff. And it's like, I don't expect everybody to hate it. I know some people love it, and that's totally fine. That's just difference of opinion and everything. But for me, man, it's just tedious. It is tedious doing it.
I agree. Yeah. I just recalled I was watching Ando's stream, Ando 1990. Yeah. So the first day that Conquest came out, and he was really hyped about it, and he was like, "This is great." I would love. I have not spoken to him about it since. I would love to hear how he feels now that we've had a couple rounds, and if he's still into, uh, I guess, the replayability of this mode.
Yeah.
It would be just kind of an interesting look back at how we felt then versus now.
Well, see, that's the thing. So I've been trying to line up one of these strat chats forever with DB Official 125, and right when it came out, I saw him stream it. I was super excited about it, and then the next time he streamed, I mentioned that I just didn't like it. I was like, I think it's definitely not the game mode that I anticipated, but it's the one they gave us, and so I guess I have to do it for the rewards. But I'm not enjoying it, and it was really funny because I think he was like giving me a little bit of grief for it, just like some playful teasing. But now that we've done it a bunch of times, and he literally just retired his alt because of time, and so now I want to ask him about like how does he feel about it now? Because I've totally left it off because that was what I want to kind of open with in my strat chat with him is so how do you feel about GC Galactic Conquest now?
Yeah.
Now that you've had to grind multiple of them now, and it's weird because I don't miss it at all. Like when I see that next event starts in one day, 13 hours, I'm like, oh, come on. Like I got to do that again,
Now, I am prepared to give benefit of doubt. So I think it's worth mentioning. They did say that the first couple conquests were going to be their test runs, and
Yeah.
that they reserved the right to make edits. I want to see if because they actually delayed returning conquests so that they could look at the data a little bit longer,
Yeah.
and make changes if necessary. I'm really hoping that they got some good takeaways here, and they can make some tweaks here to possibly make it a little more enjoyable. I don't
Yeah.
know, especially with the replayability, less grindy. I don't know what those ideas would be to make that happen, but I'm hoping that the data reveals something.
Yeah. So the problem I feel that's going to happen is let's be honest, in your alliance and my alliance and stuff, most people that were doing the conquests were burning refreshes every single day and beating it sound 7-star box in 3 days. And
Some people did it pretty quick. Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
didn't do it that quick, but yeah.
I mean, I started seeing tier 7 boxes in my guild chat like 2 days in, something like that.
Yeah, there's definitely some people that can't wait and they have to have it.
Yeah, like I just want to get it done right away, and I'm like, but
Yeah.
that's the thing. I have a bad feeling that CG are going to look at those things and weight it more than the people that didn't spend any refreshes and just didn't give a shit. And I have a funny feeling that there's a lot of non-vocal players that didn't do very much on it just because of how it's built.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the casual players, I guarantee weren't gunning for tier 7 boxes, and I'm pretty sure they probably finished middle of the pack on whatever difficulty they did, and it's not because their account's not good; it's just they couldn't be asked. And I got a funny feeling that CG is going to ignore that kind of stuff and look at the people that were hyper active in it and go, "Wow, this is great! This is getting this level of activity." I think that's something that they're looking at so much is engagement, and when you get that high levels of engagement from people, they see the money and they go, okay, well, this is working. Like, how do we get?
I think there's a high likelihood. I'm hoping that there's more to it than that, but I have a saying: follow the money when it comes to what CG will do. Just follow the money.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're probably gonna look at it and go, how do we get those people that didn't care to care? Not how do we make this like a better game mode or whatever? And I mean, I understand. They're a business; they need to make money. I totally get it. And their one goal is to separate us from our dollars. So I can see the driving behind it, but there is a weird balance that they have to play because having so many free-to-play players in the game. Like, I'm not free-to-play. I don't try to act like I am, but they need to be engaged because if we don't have a bunch of free-to-play players, all of a sudden it's just, it gets like the pool shrinks really quick, and then it's just a couple of guys, wailing on each other, in GAC and territory wars and stuff, and that's about all that's left. And who wants to be king of a dead game? You know.
Well, I think it's big that you mentioned that because just circling back to like the alts, I've had a number of people that I know drop their alts because this was just too much of a grind,
Yeah.
and their alts are going to fall behind. But you have to look at what those alts were doing as far as buoying a lot of these middle tier guilds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that have a lot of alts. Like now you're going to have to shrink guilds. Like this is going to lead to what's essentially going to be player base contraction, right?
Yeah.
So that's another unintended consequence, I think, and I hope that that's something that they consider. But that may not be revealed by the data. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it might do if there's a bunch of active accounts that didn't really participate, like your two alt accounts, and then now, like especially if they went completely dark afterwards, I think that would probably be, if there was enough of them, I think that would stand out, and they would kind of really have to consider that. If there's not, and it's just like a couple of people dropping some alts here and there, and it doesn't shake up to a real significant population. Even then, I think even a 5% deviation there could cause them to want to change some stuff. So I don't mean like, oh, I'll lose like 20% of the player base. No, nothing like that. But like, of the active accounts that don't participate, if they've stopped being active after the release of Conquest, I think that's some data that they would have to really look at and try to figure out what's going on there. Because
Yeah.
for a game, like I said, like you were talking about, it's 5 years old, and getting new players in is going to be a real struggle. But that's what's going to keep the game alive and healthy moving forward. Then, yeah, I mean, they've got to look at that.
And alts are essentially support for the middle and lower tier, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
Because even if the alts themselves aren't spending, you're helping buoy other people into situations where they might spend.
Exactly. Because you get like an alt dropping into a mid 200s guild, and it's a say like a long term player whose main account has like all 4 Galactic Legends is like 7-8 million. Has a great account, has everything, knows how to do all the counters and everything. Say it's like someone like one of those CAW players or something like that. Their alt in like a 220 guild, that would be a dynamite addition. Because even if it's only like 1-2 Galactic Legends, there's a guy that he knows all the counters,
Right.
and he can definitely help some of those people get ready for some of these counters if they're struggling on certain things in the guild. So that specifically on a knowledge and experience level is in fucking valuable. To have someone with that knowledge level drop into your guild and start suggesting things for the guild going forward in territory wars and or teams even in territory battles, right? Like think about a mid-tier guild like that, a 220 mil guild or something like that, having somebody come in who can show the people who have JML, show them how to build a proper Mon Mothma team that 4-for-4s almost every single time on every single phase in Lightside Geo, and gets a couple of people to go along with them. That's a huge change. That could be like a full star or two difference.
Oh, well, I actually have a personal experience to share here. So I did have someone that was in my guild. He received someone's main account when they retired. It had 4 GLs.
Yeah.
And so he took it to where my alt guild is, and they're about 260 million.
Okay.
And so you bring 4 GLs to a 260 mil guild. We were like 10 million shy of the next star in LSTB. He comes in, we now hit that star.
Like every time?
Every time.
Yeah, and that's a huge boost.
His account's a beast.
Yeah.
He's a territory war officer, so his account's going to get 16 waves every phase, right? As soon as Conquest hit, he couldn't run the account anymore. We straight up lost the account, and we went straight down to star. That's nothing on him. That's no blame on him at all.
Yeah.
I'm not in his shoes. I can't go and make that time investment. That's something that, in a very real setting, affected another guild, and that's an example of the effects alts have.
Yeah, exactly, and that's something that could have a real cascading effect too in that kind of area. Because I was an officer in a guild in back in the day that was the one I just left to join Final Order a couple of months ago, And I was doing a lot of recruiting, and there was a point where I almost gave up on recruiting just because recruiting at like 230, 240 million was fucking impossible. To get people that we wanted, they all wanted to be in like a 300 million guild, and to get people that wouldn't help our guild move forward, they would always kind of looking at us going like, can we get something better? And they're like, we're only taking you because we have spots that we can't fill. Like, that's the only like, we're not offering this because you're like an incredible player that we need to get in here. And it was a weird one because you were sitting there going like, well, that's an account that I wouldn't look at if we had 49 people and we were just looking for the last one. We'd leave it open for a really great account. We drop down to like 46 and we start looking at accounts that aren't quite ready for that guild and going, well, I mean, they're growing pretty well. Their mods are pretty good. Like, everything seems pretty good. If we get this guy now, he can come in and grow with the team, and maybe like he likes it and stays, and then we've got another good player. So that you start making those kind of decisions, and so you start taking some of your top end guild accounts out, like those alts you're talking about. You just can't fill that gap. You can't fill that gap.
Yeah, you start getting a bunch of guilds that go to 45, then another 5 people leave because now you're at 45 and can't fill back to 50.
Yeah.
And now you're looking at, I have to merge, or do I want to salvage this, right?
Yeah. Like, do we just dissolve the guild and move forward? And
yeah, and I've seen a lot of guild contraction recently. I've seen a lot of guilds like fold or merge.
Well, there was a big one that fucking folded pretty recently.
Oh,
yeah, that was a shock.
It made the news waves.
Yeah, that was a shock. Like, I got a DM about it, like, as I was waking up. Basically, I opened up my phone and I saw one. It's like, oh my god, Nova's going kaput, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, how is that possible?
Nova went supernova.
yeah, exactly. That it was. I mean, that's a pretty big one because that's one of the top PvP guilds in the game, and now suddenly just gone. So like with TI, I kind of went through that too, right? Just recently, where they just went boom, and that's kind of crazy to have. At the this is the 1% of players kind of area, that top 1%, the tip of the spear that CG like to talk about. And there's a lot of spenders up in in the stratosphere up there, and if those guilds start going pop, that's not a good look.
No.
Yeah, that's
now. Luckily, guilds at that level don't go pop too often. There's usually other stuff going on in the background, but I mean, for a middle tier guild, that's like absolutely devastating. Like, there's just no way to recover.
Yeah, because middle tier guild just can't repopulate with the same quality. They have to drop down and start grabbing people that they wouldn't normally recruit. And I mean, all this plays into it, in terms of enjoyment of the game, keeping players happy, is especially, if you can keep the people you've been playing with for years playing, then who's going to blink first? Most of them are going to stay because they're hanging out with their friends, doing their thing, like I've got friends on Discord that even after I quit this game, I promise I'll still be in contact with, just because we've been talking now for 3 fucking years.
You spent a lot of time. I mean, just because you haven't met in real life, I mean, there's still real relationships, still real friendships.
Absolutely.
I am glad though that CG isn't completely ignoring the new player base issue.
I agree. I was pretty vocal about that when I was coming up, because I felt like I was the only streamer at the time that was a new account, basically. And so I would talk about that a lot, and I used to go on the official boards and talk about that a lot. Like, what about new players? Like, all this is a direct hit to new players. Like, it makes it harder for new players. Like, the game has to grow, and I kept kind of trying to make those points, but that board is not exactly helpful.
I will give CG credit where credit's due. They've not ignored it entirely. They've taken steps. The journey guide, for one,
I think it's fantastic.
It's just a wonderful addition. It was overdue, and just the amount of sheer content that we had, they needed a way to organize it, centralized in the game. I know we had resources that were outside the game, but they required you to research.
Yeah, and to go and do something that a casual wouldn't do. I think I'm not gonna even sugarcoat it. I think the journey guide was probably the best addition they've put to this game since GAC.
It was quite good.
Yeah, and then
Um,
adding the double shard drops is amazing.
yeah, so
Really
they
amazing.
started doing that to help players catch up with
With the
being
older
so
stuff,
far
yeah.
behind on these shard farms, right?
Yeah,
And,
because
and
that's
kind
not
of
where they're making their money anymore. Shard farms. It's like they make their money on the
yeah,
marquees and they make the money on the gear and
yeah,
pushing to G13 and relics and stuff like that.
yeah.
But so for them, I think that was a good thing that they recognized. They're like, we're not really going to be losing much here, and you know, it's a daunting thing. You know, as a new player, like I remember when I first started, and I started what 2 years after the game started, or 2.5 years after the game started, and I remember looking at all the characters in the game going, how am I going to get these guys? Like, how? I'm like, well, I'm definitely never getting that one. I'm never getting that one. Like that kind of thing where I just go through and go, yeah, probably not getting that. Yeah, no, that's not happening either. You know, like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Oh, do you have so and so? No, no. And that was a funny one in streaming too. Oh, use whatever, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, that's an old team. I'm a kind of new player. I don't even have them start up. Like that's just like that's
Yeah.
just not happening. You know, that kind of thing.
No, I got to give them credit. They did a good job there,
Yeah.
and tying it back to the first topic we brought up during this session today, that new guild search.
Yeah.
I hope this is a sign of things to come.
Yeah.
Now, Yeti, I have a question. Do you have the ability to throw the screenshots of that on the stream here?
I can actually. I can do that. Let me open it
It
up
might
in
be fun to
the
go through each
browser.
of the screenshots and take a look.
Yeah. So I can definitely do that. I can bring it up on the browser and do that. Let me just get that going here. All
Yeah,
right.
it's going to be that Reddit article.
Let's go with the browser. So if you guys are doing some work or something like that and you want to see this, just go ahead and click here, and I'll try to tap us through. All right, let me pull the browser window a touch, make it a little bit bigger so we get that a little bit better. Wasn't particularly set up for this on this screen. Yeah, so this is basically what it, they're showing the guild details. And here's the thing, I want to access this for my guild while I'm in the guild. That's one thing that we couldn't figure out how to do when we were looking at it before recording started. But I think this is really fantastic. It shows what they're doing. Heroic tier 5 or tier 6. Not completed on the challenge, like stuff like that's great. And then you click over to the next one here, you've got their territory battles. You got 25, 45, 24, 48, not attempted, not attempted. Like I think that's great. It tells you where they are as a guild and what they're doing in their territory battles. I love it. I would love to see this screen accessible for guilds while you're in a guild though. Like I'd love to go look at other guilds and see what they're doing. I'd love to see what my guild's doing in terms of these windows. Like that'd be something that's fun to screen capture and send to people, that kind of thing. Like if you're, especially if you're say like, hey, come join our guild, we're doing pretty well, check this out, and you show us the stars or whatever. You look here. This is my favorite part of this: the territory
Mine
war
too.
win loss. Territory war win
This is
loss.
very cool.
This is why I want this so bad for access. I want to be able to go and look and see. I'd love to see not just the wins and defeats. I'd love to see who beat them. You know, like
So,
maybe make it accessible to see what guild won. Like if you go and click on, say, that defeat there at the top, then it would show the other guild, like who they were. That would be so cool. If we could link to it, that'd be amazing. You can go click on them.
so
See
there's
that?
actually a very underrated feature on this screen here. I know that they show the prize tier. What's a big problem that you see with at MC Final Order and myself and Alpha is sandbaggers.
Yeah,
Now you can see what their total GP is, and you can see what GP they're going into territory war with. Like if you see
exactly.
their 360 million, but their prize bracket's 300 to 315 or whatever it is,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
exactly.
that's some useful information too. Like it's all right there now. You can't really hide it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and I think that's really fantastic, and I'd love to see this be, like I said, be an accessible feature for everybody in a guild, out of guild, etc. That you can go and look through at other guilds and everything. So like you leave the join button, but you just gray it out for when you're in a guild.
yeah,
Like that would be the move, I think. Once again, CG, I hope you're listening. And then yeah, the last
yep.
one didn't really get changed too much, but you do see in the background it's roughly the same for this one, but I don't know why they screenshotted that. That looks exactly the same. But I think this is one of the more one of the more big paws on a puppy thing. I think this is going to lead to some more UI upgrades for sure. Hopefully some quality of life stuff like just fleet squads. Come on, baby. Preset fleet squads. I've been wishing for it
can we
forever.
talk about how long overdue that's been?
I know. God, man, that is just brutal. And here's the thing, especially in the meta that we have, now where you have to run between two different teams, just let me preset them. I mean, I don't even need to preset a bunch of teams. Just give me the option to preset, I don't know, 4 teams. Like just 4.
Right.
Like that's not even all of the fleets available. I mean, granted, sure they should give you as many as you want, but God, just give me the option. I just want to be able to switch through like my negotiator and my malevolence, and then the different malevolence builds I use to kill the various weird shit that people throw out there with negotiator.
Yeah, because I have to memorize all of it now. Like, what starting lineup did I use? What were my reinforcements? Shoot. I go back and look at my history. Oh man, I didn't reinforce that battle.
Yeah,
I can't see what I used.
yeah. It's like one of those where there's a couple of options for stuff like malevolence and negotiator where I know it works, but I can't remember the specifics because I did it maybe once after watching a video. And go, that works, or I did it a couple of times. And I'm like, yeah, it works, and then I didn't do it for like a month, and now I'm like, all right, I'm pretty sure the starting lineup is this. And then I'm pretty sure I want to do this on like reinforcements and stuff. And so if this happens, we do this. If this happens, we do this. And I start trying to think of it that way. And then I'm like, that makes sense. And then I can't remember. I can't remember if like one of the weird ones was there was a variant of negotiator that I was using a strange starting lineup for the malevolence. I watched somebody do it on a video, and then I practiced it a couple of times, and it worked flawlessly every time. To this day, I still can't remember if it was which Geo was in the starting lineup. So I'm just like, I haven't been able to recreate it, and I haven't been able to find that film again. And I'm like, God damn it! I was like, it was good. Like I just can't remember which one of these I'm using in the starting lineup because, it's just something simple as that. Especially in fleets, because fleets, you don't have as much experience with your fleets no matter what. There's just not enough battles. Like you're doing a lot more with your squads than you are with your fleets. And yeah, I think anything that makes that easier is going to be fantastic. Especially, it could revitalize some of these really dead shards. Like that's definitely an option. Like I hear stories about people who have a shard where they're like, "Oh, I got hit this week." What? Yeah, I like climbed a 1 and I stayed at 1 for like 4 days, and then I finally got bumped out of 1. Whoa.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. And then I
almost wonder if the theme of today's episode is CG. I hope you're listening.
Yeah, it almost is. I mean, you really got to think about it. Like, everything we've been talking about has mostly been about basically quality of life in the game, and the game getting better and stronger. And it's crazy because so many of these ideas aren't radical, and there's something they could do, I would imagine, fairly easily if they were willing to do so. The problem is I feel like they don't have a lot of willingness to do a lot of these little quality of life things with any real resources. So it's something that happens when they've got spare time and they want to throw us a bone kind of thing. Like, oh, this has been a problem for a while. Maybe we'll do something about that this month, And I totally understand, but at the same time, this fleet thing, they should have had the fleet squads, God, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Like when, I'm just assuming around the time that the Falcon meta became a thing, that's when they probably should have put a little bit of love into fleets and given us those squads. Just even one sheet of fleet squads would be such a massive improvement. And it would.
Yeah, I don't really understand why they couldn't translate the ability to do templates over to fleet, and really from a development perspective, if you can program 4 slots, you could do 100. It's just a data allotment, a memory allotment on the back end.
Yeah, like it's one of those where I remember they gave some excuse for it somewhere. I don't remember exactly what it was. It's really funny because I used to read all their Q&As and stuff, like just looking for things. I used to do a video where I'd read through it and talk about what I see and stuff. And they haven't done one in ages. They haven't done a Q&A in a long time. Like I don't remember the last full on Q&A they did. Um, maybe
I think we did have one. I can't recall exactly when. It might have been December, or it might have been right before the new GLs.
it could have
Uh,
been if it was in December. That's probably why I was out of town for most of the month. But
don't quote me on this,
yeah,
but I remember that there was one. I want to say within the last 9 months they did do one. But I know that this new team that's running CG, so to speak. Um, I know that Carrie was very outspoken, and she used to kind of get herself in hot water sometimes with
yeah.
things that she would promise or say or not, shouldn't say. So I know that this new team has been a lot more reserved in that regard, as far as promising anything or divulging anything.
Yeah.
Um, so communication has kind of shut down to an extent. We haven't been getting the same level of interaction that we have in the past, and I honestly don't know what the heck they're working on right now. Like that's kind of a problem.
Like I remember they had something that I was gonna be watching, and then like every time I went to go look at it, it wasn't really updated. It was like a Trello board or something, Trello or something like that, where it was they had like tasks they were gonna work on or whatever, what they're working on actively. And I don't remember what happened with that, but I remember looking a few times and remember not seeing too much changing. So I was like, okay, I guess they're not really keeping up with that. I know there's a guy on the board that's pretty active called Doja Fed or whatever on the main boards, but that main board's it's not as bad as the Reddit can be, but it's still pretty. There, I don't know. It's I don't really like posting on that forum. I do go and try to look at stuff from time to time, but I've gotten pretty cheesed off with it. So when challenges came out, I went and actually gave like an honest feedback without not pulling punches, but not being like rude about it. Just being like, this is what I think is wrong with the build. This is what I think is right. That kind of thing. My level of enjoyment wasn't high, so I let them know why, hoping that maybe they'd make it more fun, but we'll see. Um, but I don't really think that they're getting a lot out of that. Somebody was saying that guys like Chrome and stuff have been going into Discord a little bit and talking to people. My server's open, guys. Come have a listen. That kind of thing. But I don't know how much they're getting out of that, and I don't know how much they're putting into it either. So that's all grain of salty stuff. But
Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery at this point, but I don't want to rag on CG. I think
yeah,
the
yeah.
fact of the matter is they continue to support the game. I enjoyed enough to continue playing it.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Like I'm not
yeah,
I'm not
so
even trying to be like overtly negative or anything like that, but there are some genuine grievances grievances.
grievances. There are grievances too.
It's like you are a bold one. But yeah, like there are some things about the game that I think can be improved, and like we play this game a lot. And we like the game, that's why we play it. So we're hoping that it gets better. I'm always hoping that it gets better. I don't want to see it fall apart. Like I don't think that's ever been my stance on it. Um, I mean, it would be like getting away from an abusive relationship, but you know,
yeah, you know what? We're all. I think at this point, everyone who's stuck around, especially the longer player base, like we're all the same type of person. Like
yeah,
at
yeah,
this point, we kind of like it. So
yeah. It's grindy and it's buggy and it's weird, but we love it and we want it to be better, and we're hoping we tell our friends that it's better. Oh, they've changed, but
yeah.
that they haven't. They haven't.
Hey,
Um,
I'll give them credit. They continue to chip away at these small things. If they continue to add on to that, like this new guild search
yeah.
feature, and the journey guide and whatever other stuff. Like I'm just curious to see what's next because we don't have any GLs on the horizon. At least I don't think.
I think I
Um,
think we're gonna get some legendaries. I think we're gonna get some probably another. I keep saying it. There's got to be an epic confrontation coming up. There's got to be.
Unless they've completely abandoned the format.
I don't think they have. I think that they're quickly going to try to put more get to stuff, more character shards and get to. Um, Most people have both of the premium fleets, and now they're just stacking up currency right now. So I'm willing to bet we're going to get. That's one of the reasons why I keep thinking EC's coming. There's this many characters. They can make an epic confrontation for, like Spear Mando or something like that. And, they can they can go ahead and throw their whatever the 185 shards or whatever needed or whatever it is into the get to store and start draining that horde. Like I think a lot of what they're doing now is all about draining hordes, getting people's gear out, getting people's crystals down. I don't think they want these long-term players like with fully developed rosters just building on resource after resource after resource.
Yeah,
Just
and then
keep
they
building
bring
up.
new GLs and we can knock it out day one.
Yeah, like that's not what they intended with those. Like I was a little bit surprised at how quickly people were getting Slacker and Ray when those first came out. Like when I saw how the Galactic Legend was going to be coming on those tickets and stuff like that, I was looking at it going like they're going to try to hold you from getting the character for a few months. Like I thought it was going to take a lot longer just on the ticket farm and everything. I didn't anticipate people unlocking the character day one. I just didn't see that happening. I was like, it's going to take you probably a week or two to get it. Boom, day one, they got it. And it's just like, oh, fuck. Like, I didn't realize how many crystals that those people were sitting on, and they probably have been hoarding energy for, a great amount of time. And, just getting ready to, for the ticket farm drop. Just like, come on, show
Yeah,
me.
so we have these resource training um, characters and directions, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then you also add in that, they did mention we're going to get an R8 through R14 eventually. We got R8, like, I want to say somewhat unexpectedly, right? Like, we were just kind of going
Yeah.
about our day, and all of a sudden, boom, here we have R8. I almost expect the same thing for R9, and God knows how high they can go up before the next round of GLs. And you get the next round of GLs that requires, like, 4 R9s, and each one takes like 200 stack of some type of premium gear. Now you have your gauntlet
it's
back.
insane how much gear Relic 8 takes. Like it's just fucking crazy. 186 G12 plus pieces have to be ground down to get the other side of the R8. Like I think I have like 3 or 4 full on one side of it ready to go, but
Yeah, especially because like if you're taking any tunes from 12 to 13, they usually require roughly 180 to 200 for a full faction.
yeah.
And so I've done 3 R8s. I don't know how many you've done,
I've
but
got 2.
I'm probably going to sit tight after the next 1 or 2.
Yeah, like I'm really looking at it like my guild's pushing us to try to get some more Relic 8s, and I'm just going like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm thinking maybe C and Slacker are probably worth it.
Slacker's very worth it.
I mean, ish. I'm not really too bothered about the Crankor. He's one of those ones where he's worth it just because he's still the best character in the game. So, making him hit harder and or be more difficult to kill is definitely worth the gear. C's worth it just for the solo abilities. Like I've got like 175,000 health on my C, so at Relic 8 I bet you he's got to be sitting at what, like 180 190. Like
Yeah, and you also have to remember all of the GLs. I
get
think
the
it's
extra
their
relic
unique
level.
ability. Yeah, they get 10k per relic level. So that's not to be understated.
Yeah.
With Slacker, I actually almost don't even raid the challenge Rancor anymore. It's just grindy. But Slacker at R8 has been huge for me in 3v3. Being able to set him on defense. If you don't have like a tuned JKL or whatever counter that you're planning to use against them, like at R8 is a little bit of a difference maker there. And then
it adds a
obviously
huge
in
area of RNG, a huge area, because he just ramps up that much faster now, and Yeah, I'll probably do Slacker next. That's the one I've been kind of debating. But it's so hard with that 180, the 186 or whatever pieces of gear, turning it into that. I mean, it's it's just hard to like get that together, especially since I don't have Ray yet, and I'm like seven. I have seven of the resistance relic. I'm sorry, five of the resistance relic. So I need seven more to get Ray, and it's just like, all right. So I need eight to get Ray and get her relic, and then I'll put the alt that I was building on C's thing. I'll put that on Ray, and then I'll work on Ray's, I guess, to hold another alt. Maybe I'll finally put it on JML. I'm not sure after Ray, but and it's like I think all the Galactic Legends are great at Relic 8. I think JKL and Vader and Gas and like they're all great at Relic 8.
A lot of guilds that have 7-star cam are now doing R8 there too, because
I
you
would.
can sub cam, you can sub out gas and use cam as your damage dealer. And at R8, I mean, he's hitting as hard, if not harder, than gas, because
Yeah.
they both have really high base offenses.
Well, it's crazy. Cam at Relic 7. I've been watching the streams of the people in Territory Wars and stuff that have Cam in my guild, and I never wanted Cam until I started watching some of these, and now I'm like, I have Cam envy.
Yeah, my alt guild didn't understand why I was pushing so hard for cam shards. They're like, "We'll get it in like 9 months, whatever." And then
Yeah,
I showed them what it does for your Jedi splits,
yeah,
and
yeah,
now everybody's like, "Yeah, we're willing to stream now."
yeah. Like we're gonna go after this pretty hard. On a plus point,
Yeah,
I really feel like the Bad Batch are gonna make Cam shards easy. I think we're gonna start seeing a lot of guilds getting 50 for 50 once they've got the Bad Batch ready to go. So
that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I mean, are let me go inside and take a look because I don't
well,
remember what the requirements are. It might be 501st.
believe it's just Shock T and clones.
Yeah, clone troopers, Shock T, and Arc Trooper.
Yeah, so you go arc, and you go tech. You're probably going to be using tech, and I would imagine Wrecker. I have a funny feeling Wrecker is going to have like damage immunity or self mark or something like that. Damage immunity, some sort of almost like a Bando style where he saves somebody around him. Because in the canon, like in the cartoons and stuff, he would always in Clone Wars, he would like jump in front of all the enemies with like a fucking ripped off tank door or something like that, and just like take the brunt. So I definitely feel like you're going to be able to run in there with the Bad Batch guys because with Tech and Hunter, you're already seeing you're seeing the like Foresight, you're seeing heals with these kind of things where he'll stealth everybody, so you'll be putting the pressure on Shock T or whatever because it stealths all clones, I think, or stuff like that. And then you've got the heals built in. I think there's some cleanses in there. Like I can't remember exactly. There was something in text that I was just like, holy that would be amazing in the cam fight.
Yeah, and it would have to include a damage dealer if you're replacing Echo, because really Echo, I know
Yeah,
the current modern strategy is Echo's your damage dealer, especially late in the Reek fight.
yeah. Like
Um,
Ark and Echo do the all the heavy lifting, especially
yeah,
against Reek at the end. So yeah, I could definitely see that. One of those since you've got cleanses coming in with Bad Batch, so you take out Rex and fives, and you go for you can take out Rex fives Echo. You can go in there with that. You don't get the sacrifice, but you're going to get so far. You're already looking at a lot of heals and stuff, depending on how much damage is coming from Crosshair, which I think is going to be significant. Especially with the
yeah,
exposes.
he might be the upgrade over Echo.
Yeah,
Eventually.
with the exposes in that team that is already there, with Hunter and Tech. Even Hunter might be the one that's left out. I'm not even sure. But with the exposes that are there, and if Crosshair is doing some significant damage, and you've got Arc Trooper, you put the gun or whatever on. Keep the gun on Crosshair to do the damage, and then it's just using tech to heal. You've got you've got stealth that you can put on. You've got foresight and all this stuff. I mean, it adds a lot of survivability just based on the tech kit alone, with the translation, adding extra health and everything. Like, it seems like they're gonna walk the cam mission. So it's an interesting one.
I mean, just tying this all of this discussion into catching up, smaller accounts. This would really go a long way to helping these middle tier guilds kind of catch up to the curve, so to speak.
Yeah. Because back in the one I was at, we were getting like 6, cam shards or something like that. So not very many. And a lot of people did want to remod for it, and they did want to stream and all that. And it's understandable because we had a guild of like pretty good players for where they are, but they're semi-casual, semi-casual. And so a lot of them were a long way away from JML and stuff, and even I couldn't see the use for cam until JML came in, because even when JKL dropped and you're looking at cam and you're going, I mean, cam looks good, but that Jedi like council team or whatever just still isn't very good. Yeah, it's
Let's be real, it sucks.
Yeah, it was one of those where that might have been his original purpose, but now it looks like he was built specifically to run with JML, because my God, those two together are absolutely just dynamite.
I mean, it just opens up your splits so much. Like, now you can, you like, especially in TW, right? Like,
Yeah.
like there's depends on what wall you're going to face and what comps you face, but you might need to repurpose gas. Like, he might be with 501st, he might be in your Luke nuke, he might be with JML for an overkill team. There's just so many different ways to do it. And now you add cam, gas can kind of go back to 501st.
Yeah,
And
like he almost becomes superfluous, because you can run JKR, JKL and take care of like a slacker, and then you can take your cam and JML and go take care of a slacker or a Ray or something like that, and then you can do gas with 501st and do some cleanup. If you need to run over some teams, like if you get stuck on, say, a CLS wall, which a lot of people saw, a lot of guilds will set like
CPOs.
Fucking 50 CLS and 50 Darth Revans and like 50, that kind of thing. So if you need to run over some Darth Revans with General Skywalker to open up a zone, you'll lose a few banners, but yeah, that'll work. That kind of thing. So it gives you that flexibility, because I've noticed that a lot of people either rip Darth Revan zones down quickly, or they struggle on them and lose because they struggled on the Darth Revan wall. So it's one of those. It definitely offers a lot of flexibility, especially in terms of your War Master setting up your map on your defense.
Yeah, and it's helped me in particular. Like, I remember one GAC, I had to make a pivot because he set Ray on defense, and I was expecting SLK, so I saved JML, and he ended up setting like this really toxic Ray comp that I ended up needing to use JML against. And I remember in the past I'd used JML versus Ray, and it was a timeout risk. Like, you're just racing to get to ultimate, and then once you hit ultimate, like, now the third and fourth Ray ultimate might start killing your Jedi. So you need to, it's like a race of damage, right? Like, your Jedi need to outkill Ray before Ray hits third and fourth ult, where she's hitting really hard. And so that's where cam helped a lot. Now you can get that damage output and kind of race against time there.
It's crazy how quickly cam puts everybody into damage immunity. That's what really made me get cam envy the first time. I was watching JML v cam and cam v, and it was like with 3 whatever Jedi, and then it was against Ray, and it was like, I think the first attack on RH Finn put him into damage immunity, just double pop, there he is, damage immunity. The first one on Poe, pop, damage immunity. You already had Ray in damage immunity. You're just looking around, and you're just sitting there going like, all right, okay, all right, this is happening really fast. Okay, like,
yeah. And so for anyone that is not familiar with Cam's kit, or doesn't have Cam unlocked because they're in a middle or lower tier guild, just so you guys know, Cam's basic, when he's in his original lightsaber form, does a double tap. So he has a naturally high offense, and now he's double tapping with his basic. His special has an armor shred and hits really hard. And then you can also change stances, lightsaber stances with him, and switch into like a defensive stance where he inflicts daze. So
Yeah.
it's just a really useful kit
Yeah,
with
he's
wonderful
got
applications.
a lot going on there, and I'll tell you what, offense modded Cam is just
Yep,
disgusting
get
to
him to
watch.
10K offense at R7 easily.
Yeah, yeah,
Even 11K if you have really good mods.
yeah,
Um,
and he literally like that guy fucks.
yes.
That guy fucks.
Have you seen Silicon Valley?
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
This guy fucks.
He's Jared. He's Jared.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like does this guy fuck or what?
Yeah. This guy fucks.
Yeah, yeah, and it was yeah, just watching that made me really go, "Oh man." I was almost just like, "Wow, I regret not putting an emphasis on Cam earlier." But granted, I couldn't see it. You know, like I always had a thought that, Cam could be good later, but or the other thing that popped out in my head is when the majority of people are going to be getting him, 2 years after his release, that he probably was going to get passed in the power creep, but that level of damage I think will be pretty useful for a while. So
Well, this is clearly a situation where CG knew more than we did because they had their future map, so to speak, and so they already knew that they were going to bring relics. They already knew that they're gonna bring in some big characters, and so he just kind of fit really well in their future roadmap.
yeah. So one of the things, just speaking of Cam, that makes me like kind of feel this way. I know this is a weird deviation, but do you think that like I'm looking at Sith going, Siths are actually a small faction, and now you've got a couple of really good Sith leaders. Maybe it's time to add some more Sith. Like they're looking a little light right now in
So
terms of everything.
I think that when you look at the Sith pool, you really are going to be more limited in your options because if you look at the movies and TV shows, rule of two, right?
Yeah,
There can only be two Sith at a time. Um, you might get more Sith when you get that TV show Acolyte that's going to be on Disney Plus.
yeah.
I know that's supposed to go into Palpatine's back history and stuff like that, so you might get his master. But
Which
I
would be
mean,
cool. Darth Plagueis coming to the game would be awesome. That would be something that I don't think anybody would have a problem with being like a legendary and or epic confrontation kind of thing if it comes up in the story. One of the ones that I keep coming back to is Malgus from the Old Republic. I think that could be. I don't know. I mean, people who haven't played the games probably wouldn't go there, but that could work. I don't know.
Well, they did bring a number of the old Sith Lords back into canon, but the reason I think CG might not touch them is because their powers and abilities and their stories have not been defined yet. I know a lot of their stories were based in the old Legends
Yeah.
canon. They were recanonized through the newest materials, but we haven't gotten any stories essential to them. So I wonder like how they would handle their kits or represent them. I would almost wonder that Disney might not want them to touch stuff like that yet,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because like they probably have plans. I mean, they clearly brought out the new timeline for High Republic.
Yeah, I
But I
really
know
like
that
the
the High
idea of the High
Republic.
Republic. That's going to be really awesome. I
I
think.
think we'll get content there, but I think it's
Ooh, yeah,
a little early in the process because they just released a couple books and comics. We
yeah.
haven't gotten the TV shows yet, and I know we're gonna get one.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So High Republic is actually, just based on a normal Star Wars thing, something I'm actually really excited about because I think we could totally get, based on High Republic content, you get something like an open world RPG Star Wars game, sort of like a KOTOR, but a new version that maybe plays a bit more like a Fallout or a Mass Effect or something like that.
That would be a dream.
Yeah,
That
that
would
would
be a
be
dream.
super incredible. But I feel like High Republic is where it would happen if it was going to happen because the idea of going into this basically dark zone of Star Wars history and being able to fill in whatever the hell they want to fill in, I think they're going to have a lot of fun with that. Disney's never been shy at putting their stank on it. So I feel like we could be in for some real big treats in that area.
Yeah, and I do want to caution that that time period is probably going to be a little light on Sith because I don't know if you recall, but the impression that they gave in episode 1, Phantom Menace,
Yeah, we haven't
was
seen the
that they
Sith
hadn't seen Sith
in a
for a very
long.
long time.
Yeah.
So if
So
they're going to be involved, they got to be like shadow characters doing their stuff that like the Jedi are not aware about, or they might not be able to touch on them at all. I don't know.
so because of that, what I think is that there will be Sith, like, but in a Palpatine style, where they're pulling strings behind and not directly confronting the Jedi because they can't. Um, the other
Yeah,
thing,
because there clearly had to be a master for Plagueis too, right? Like they
exactly,
didn't reveal themselves back when he had a master. Like I'm sure he was around at the time.
exactly. Like Plagueis was still there doing his things, and we all know from the other, from the games and stuff, there was a Sith Empire outside of known space. So that could be something that gets touched on as well. Like maybe they start engaging an enemy or something like that, or they have some skirmishes with something they don't understand, they don't know, and they
Or
maybe
straight up like parallel storyline where they just never meet, but like we get to see their story parallel.
that could be cool too. Like that could be something that's really interesting. Like you get the kind of like duality of the two empires. Um, that could be pretty slick. I mean, there's obviously a lot of rich history in the Sith. Like when you look at like KOTOR, and you go to Korriban, and they've got the Valley of the Sith Masters, there with like stuff like that. There's bound to be a lot of really cool stuff they can do with that. Um, and the other thing is like they touch on a couple of things like that, like the Sith holocrons and stuff. We really haven't run into those in any of the films and shows. I mean, you do see it in like Rebels and I think Clone Wars. In the the Revan Sith holocron is available, but that's like something that's came out of a book and such. So it's like that they could do some stuff with like Jedi holocrons, Sith holocrons. I think Sith holocrons could give us some Sith content in the game, possibly. Just talking about backstory of like Revan's. This is when he's talking about. God, I was just looking at Revan quotes not too long ago. I was looking up for something, and they had somebody had pulled a bunch of like Revan Sith holocron quotes out of a book or something, and I was just sitting there going like, huh, like that's pretty slick.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, because I keep looking at Sith going, man, they need some more, because like Sith Eternal is a great lead and he's a great team and everything, but it's so weird that it's just he's the team, the others are just
he doesn't like
shields.
have a dedicated team. It's weird.
Yeah, he's just like he's got some meat shields. You get to kill them before you kill him, and is like the thicker they are, the better it is, because you just sit and sit and sit and sit and sit and sit. You're dead. Spaghetti in your eye. Like, yeah.
So here's a fun stat. So despite the fact that we don't have a lot of Sith in canon right now, only 2 Sith at a time, and Palpatine and Vader ruled for a long time. We actually have 17 Sith characters in Galaxy of Heroes.
Yeah.
So that's actually quite a bit. You look at Jedi, let's see, we have 7, 14, we have 28.
Yeah, I was going to say we have about 1 billion Jedi.
So we have 28, which is 11 more, but like think about how many more Jedi there were. There was like what, 10,000 Jedi at the height of the
like
the Republic.
They can go almost endless with Jedi. I mean, there's a lot of Jedi still missing from the game. So I mean, they can kind of go kind of nuts with it. I don't know. It's an interesting one. I definitely like the characters and stuff, and hopefully they'll be developing some new things going forward. Like I said, I really want Sith to get some more characters. I think that's a faction that needs to be a little bit better represented. However they come about it, we'll have to see. I mean, that's about it. I just looked and realized we've been talking for 2 hours.
Yeah. That happens every time we hang out, though. We kind of get off on our tangents, and we always have some fascinating discussions.
Yeah, it definitely goes all over the place, which is sort of the purpose of this chat. So let me give you a thanks for coming on again. It was really great. We should probably shut her down, I think. Is there anything at the end you want to chime in with really quickly, because as we approach the 2-hour mark?
No, I just really appreciate that you continue to invite me back. I don't claim to be the foremost expert in this game, but I just think that we always get a chance to bounce some good ideas off each other, and I hope some players, that haven't gotten a chance to experience my level of gameplay get some insight into how people at, I guess, my level of gameplay think. I hope that we provide some insights and interesting topics of discussion, and especially with new stuff like we got some new UIs today. Like I hope we continue to get more stuff like that that we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
continue to talk about.
Yeah, I mean that's really the goal, as we want this game to keep growing and getting better, and getting
Yeah.
to be something we can work towards, growing our accounts and getting into all the new stuff that they give us, and hopefully they've got some cool stuff coming up for us in the short term and medium term, because I think that's going to determine a lot about where the game's going in the next the next year, and hopefully, once again, hopefully it's all roses.
Yep.
That's the idea. Anyway, thanks so much for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. We're gonna do another Strat Chat, obviously coming up. Sorry for the bit of a break there. I was trying to arrange one for a while, but it just kept falling through. And in the end, I was like, well, it's been a couple of weeks. I better put one out there. And so I gave Inks a message and was like, hey man, do you want to come have a chat? And he thankfully he agreed. So yeah, if you like, guys. If you like the video, go ahead and throw down a like. If you're still listening, you should probably do that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'm gonna wonder why you haven't subscribed. Always come join us on Twitch for live GAC. It's always a lot of fun in the Icebox. And as always, guys, have a good one.